Hi, this is Joy Robertson. As many of you know, I love food. I love finding new restaurants. I love trying new dishes. And most of all, I love talking to the many great restaurateurs and entrepreneurs we have here in the Ozarks and beyond. I love hearing their stories, and that's what this podcast is all about, learning more about them and their journey. So join me as we savor the Ozarks. Okay, everybody, this is a holiday edition, we'll call it, of Savor the Ozarks. You know, when you talk about the holidays coming up, a lot of people get real excited. It's going to be fun. It's that time of year. Other people have serious dread and anxiety because they think, I've got to cook, I've got to entertain, I've got to clean. I'm going to talk to two of my friends who are experts, at least in the area of food. Jeffrey Bates, best known for 417 Good Eatin', and Billy Dove, the 417 Foodist himself. We're going to talk about our traditions, things that have happened that were kind of a nightmare, things that have happened that are great. We're going to talk a little bit about recipes. But first, I'm going to let these guys tell you a little bit about what they do. Jeff, I'm going to start with you. You know what put you on my radar those years ago when you first started 417 Good Eatin' was you giving food reviews in your car. I mean, this guy is not messing around. You're from here. You went to Hillcrest High School. How'd you get this started?
So I got started pretty much on my lunch breaks. I would go around to all these different restaurants. It started with fast food, and it was right around the time that the Popeye's chicken sandwich came out. We put out a video, and then it kind of went, I mean, it did some good numbers. It did like a couple thousand views. And then a restaurant owner by the name of Tony Fuel reached out to me that used to own the Carriage House. And he's like, if you're going to do that for a multi-billion-dollar corporation, why do you not do that for the mom and pop shops? And that's how it started. That was my very first video, was doing it for the Carriage House. And from there, I started doing it in my car. And then I started doing more things with like Welcome to Springfield, to where me and Terry Yarm started shooting videos just all around, just all the different restaurants in Springfield, in and around the area.
We've got a lot of good food here, wouldn't you? I mean, obviously you think we do, but it's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, so I mean, I travel all around the country. I've been to a lot of states and a lot of the food hubs, like, you know, New Orleans, Dallas. I mean, just a lot of places that people say that they have the best food. And I really do think that the 417 has some great options.
I would agree. Billy Dove, you jumped on my radar years ago with your photos for 417 Foodist, and I actually looked you up. I'm like, who are you? Who are you? I mean, when I want to go out and I don't know what to eat, a lot of times I'll go to your site and just look through your photos, and I'm like, that's what I want. How did that get started?
So mine got started because there was a local podcast that was going on at the time that highly focused on food within the city limits of Springfield and nothing else outside of that. And so I thought to myself, growing up in a small town, I'm like, man, there's so many other mom and pop places that are out here available that people just don't know about. And so I kind of made it my goal of going around to small locally owned restaurants and just kind of showcasing the different foods and the owners and stuff like that from these smaller towns, and kind of working my way from outside to the inside to Springfield, and just showcasing different restaurants and the owners, and, you know, kind of giving people different highlights of what's on the menu, a preview of sense before you go to the restaurant and see what you can get.
I hear about new restaurants a lot of times from you before I hear it from the new restaurant because, you know, it pops up in a hurry. You do a really good job. By the way, we are at the workshop at Finley Farms, so we're sitting outside on an absolutely beautiful day because this place is stunning, and if you hear a little traffic noise, that is why. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about the holidays. What sort of feeling do you get when it comes holiday time? Are you one of the people that dreads it? Are you one of the people that looks forward to it? How does Thanksgiving rank on your list of holidays?
I enjoy Thanksgiving, so I enjoy having family over. I enjoy whether it be at my house or a family member's house, or even if we decide not to cook and we go to someplace that's serving Thanksgiving someplace. I enjoy having everybody together and just enjoying a meal together and having the entire day of just hanging out.
I like Thanksgiving because I feel like once it's over, the rush to Christmas is too fast. And I think the approach to Thanksgiving is nice because it's a little bit more, you're still enjoying fall, it's relaxed, and it's not the shopping frenzy. Jeff, what about you? You say sometimes you take the family on a vacation.
Yeah, so usually around Thanksgiving time, we'll take the family on a vacation, just across the country, usually Walt Disney World, Disneyland, or even up north to like Minnesota to take the kids to the Mall of America. But I do love Thanksgiving. It's one of my favorite holidays because that's when everybody really has to put their cooking skills to the test, and you can really see who can cook and who can't. And, you kind of have the battle of the bragging rights in my family.
Real quick fun fact, my husband and I got married at Mall of America. So next time you're there, Jeff, go to the Chapel of Love, and I'll give you the date and our pictures in the photo album. All right, so you brought up the idea of food. Okay, so what are your must-haves? What do you love?
So the biggest thing is dressing and macaroni and cheese. Those are the things. Like, the turkey, everybody can do the turkey. Everybody can do the, candied ham, the honey ham. But it has to have the good dressing and the good mac and cheese.
To me, I have to have deviled eggs. There's got to be an entire platter where I can be eating on deviled eggs beforehand and during the meal. I've got to have them.
Dressing is my family's jam, right? The dressing, my family does a regular dressing, or always did historically when my parents were still around, a regular dressing, an oyster dressing, so they would vary things up. It wasn't until recently that we started doing mac and cheese. But Jeff, I completely see how that is a staple. It's a must-have. Do you do the mac and cheese, or does Grandma do the mac and cheese, or do you fight it out who does the mac and cheese, or how does it work?
Well, if I did the mac and cheese, nobody would come back for another Thanksgiving.
I don't believe a word of that.
Thankfully, I have many people in the family that vie for that position of who's bringing in the mac and cheese and who's bringing in the dressing, and then we kind of go from there. Whoever has their dressing left over, we already know that that they didn't win for that year. Whoever has an empty pan, that's who won for the year.
Okay. All right. You got to bring the same size pan, though, to make it a fair fight. What do you do? What's your Thanksgiving thing?
So I'm in charge of all the mixed drinks. Since I don't really cook, I am the cocktail master. That's my thing.
Okay, you're a good guy to have around. So what do you cook, Billy?
So typically, if we are doing Thanksgiving at my house, I'm usually in charge of the main protein. So we like to smoke. So even if we're not doing a traditional turkey, we've smoked ribs, pork loin, pork butt. So usually that's what I'm in charge of within our family stuff.
I have, since my mom and dad have passed away, I've had to be the one in charge of the dressing. We never were stuffing people. We just made a pan of dressing, right? The funny thing is going back through my mom's recipes, and there'll be like 4 or 5 different recipes for everything, and she'll write things on there like a half cup of this and a little dab more. A little dab. How much, Mom, is a little dab? Like, I feel like she is messing with me from, the great beyond, because, like, it's tough when the person who makes the great food isn't with us anymore, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Oh, I'd have to agree. It's trying to make sure you have those recipes down, and so you can continue that tradition as much as possible.
And sometimes it's a little hard, too. So for those of you out here who are listening, take a video of your relative making the recipe or talking about the recipe. Read it out loud. Write it down to where you know how to do it, because sometimes they know in their head. And my mother will write things like, oh, just eyeball it. Or you'll get a feel for it. And that makes it a little bit more difficult. Okay, what are the things on your Thanksgiving menu that you really don't care for? Is there any one Thanksgiving staple that you don't like?
So while we're on the topic of dressing versus stuffing, I have absolutely despised stovetop since I was a kid. And that's what everybody in my family always default to do, was stovetop.
I had some last night. It was really good.
I have not liked that. And it took up until I was probably in my middle 20s, and my mother-in-law actually made homemade dressing, and they convinced me to try it. And now that's the only one that I'll actually eat. My wife loves stovetop. You won't catch me within 10 feet of it.
What about you?
I have a very controversial one. It is pumpkin pie. I have to have sweet potato pie. Cannot do pumpkin pie. I don't care how good you make it, whatever. I've had people that say that this is the best pumpkin pie you're ever going to have, and it just tastes like everybody else's. Yes.
Okay, so sweet potato pie is a thing at your house. Okay. All the other pies, too?
Yeah, all the other pies. Apple, pecan pie. But yeah, just pumpkin, no. Not a fan of it.
Okay. Anybody ever do mincemeat pie? Do you remember that? No? Okay, it's real over the top spicy. But now I will say my Aunt Polly was the master at that. And I would usually have a bite. because it was so sweet. Anyway, look that one up, and if you get a chance, give it a shot. I had a friend the other day tell me that she wants no part of green bean casserole. Okay, everybody's laughing a little bit. Green bean casserole can be kind of divide the audience just a little bit. I don't understand anybody who doesn't love anything with the little French fried onions on top. The green bean casserole is killer. I love it. Yes or no?
Okay, so my day job, I am right across the street from Reckitt Benckiser, which is French's. For 16 years, I walk out one day a week and all we smell is French fried onions. And in the beginning, it's like, this is great. But over the years, my love of it and tying it to green bean casserole has just went down. So it's not that I despise it. It's just like, if it's there and there's other things to choose from, I'm going to skip it. All because of that smell for over a decade.
Okay, I get it, I guess. But man, that's a good dish. What do you think?
So I could absolutely take it or leave it. I mean, if it's done right, yes. But I've had so many green bean casseroles that I could just do without another one for the rest of my life.
Now, see, I'll get into not arguments, but I have gotten into debates before about whether you use the French-style green beans or if you use the whole green beans or if you use fresh green beans, which I think the funniest thing, my husband calls fresh green beans fake green beans because he thinks they're too rubbery. They're just not good, and they're actually the realest of the real green beans. So that's one thing that I absolutely love. Do you have any variations on a recipe that you could share with our audience? I started I do a twice-baked potato that's really good. And last year I threw bacon in it, and it was a big hit. Not a huge, it's not like it took me all day to figure this out. I just threw it in at the last minute. Any variations on a dish that you can recommend to people or that you'd like to try?
One of the things that we do to kind of switch up with the mac and cheese is we do a seafood mac and cheese with like crab, shrimp, and just different variations of just seafood. So that's one of the things that we do in our house.
Oh, raising the bar. Do you do the crispy little crumbles on top, or do you just do the straight up mac and cheese?
Just a straight up mac and cheese, no bake on top.
Okay, none of the little the crispies, which I think is good. But look, if it's a standalone mac and cheese, don't mess with it. What about you? Anything you want to toy with a little bit this year?
So we really don't mess with anything. Over the years, we've learned like, okay, this is what works, and we're like, don't mess with it. No one's caught off guard by someone trying something new. Maybe we should be a little bit more experimental. I don't know. Maybe I need Jeff to get me a pan of this seafood macaroni and cheese this year.
We're going to Jeff's house. I think you're going to St. Louis this year. We'll be right behind you. So one year I did a pumpkin soup, which I'm a huge soup person, and I thought it would be fun to do pumpkin soup. And I had these little, very small bowls out. Pumpkin soup, I don't think anybody but me, any of pumpkin soup. They were like, no, you're trying too hard. Let's not do that. Did either of you have a disaster? Do you have, and I mean just a funny holiday story / disaster? Jeff, you're nodding. What happened?
So we were having, the battle of the dressings, and two of my aunts brought a pan of dressing in. Like, it was only there two. So one of the things, the dressing was just getting destroyed, demolished. The other one was just sitting there. And my other aunt, I thought that her dressing was the one that was getting demolished. I was like, oh, your dressing was so good. I was like, that's the one that you brought, right? She was like, no, mine is the one that nobody else is touching. And she was staring daggers through me. And I had to sit on the complete other side of the house. So that was a disaster.
That's a little much when you realize, that's uncomfortable. And, sometimes those gatherings can be a little uncomfortable to begin with. What about you? Anything weird?
Don't really have anything weird. I would say one disaster we had was one year we decided to try something new, and we made spinach dip. And then the disaster came the next day whenever the folks who actually ate the spinach dip got sick from the spinach dip. So spinach dip has no longer been welcomed at Thanksgiving. So I would say that was probably our major catastrophe.
Okay, so you narrowed it down to the spinach dip. I was telling before we got started recording this, I had a situation when I was pregnant with my first daughter. Something went around our family, and 11 of 18 of us got hit with, I always call it the cruise ship year. We were not on a cruise ship, but it was like that norovirus or whatever that hits cruise ship. Okay, I have a couple of crazy things. Thing one, I either wasn't born, and I don't think I was, or I was too young to remember. Apparently, Mom and Dad's dog, who I believe name was Rusty, ran down the street and swiped somebody's turkey that they had out. I believe it might have been just defrosting. So, yeah, the turkey showed up on our doorstep. Then it was a race to figure out whose turkey it was. And then I think they got a call from Mrs. Gosnell saying, hey, by the way, I think your dog just swiped our turkey. Thing two, the dressing, which is the most important. My family, growing up in Arkansas, very proud of the dressing. My Aunt June used to invite my dad and my uncle over to taste the dressing. And this was a days-long thing. Everybody would cook the cornbread, let it get a little stale, you know how you do. And then she would say, I want you to come taste the dressing. And she'd say, okay, you guys come on over. Tell me if we need more sage or we need more whatever. Now, I learned years later that was just a ploy to get those guys over to sit and have a cocktail. Because the tasting of the dressing, and they did nail it every year, but it was also just a chance to go over and have a drink, which is why they did this for days and days and days. They probably really didn't mess with it till the day before they cooked it. But that said, I had a sister-in-law who we entrusted with carrying the uncooked tray of dressing. Jeff's, yeah, So she is walking through my aunt's carpeted living room. Any guesses as to what happened?
I'm going to guess it probably ended up on the floor.
Dressing hit the carpet.
Expeditiously, yes. I'm guessing the foot caught the rug just the right way, and hey, no dressing for Thanksgiving.
Oh, no. We had more than one pan because we do a ton of it, right? But we also do the oyster version and the regular version. I don't remember which version it was, but dead silence. A lot of staring, a lot of disbelief, a lot of that didn't just happen. But you know what? It all worked out. But we do kind of reminisce about, remember that one Thanksgiving? And everybody goes, oh, yeah, I remember that one for sure. Okay, I have the nightmare of all nightmares in terms of a Thanksgiving dish. Years ago, I lived and worked in Little Rock. I worked in this TV production studio. And we had a potluck. Everybody brings something. And, of course, all these people say, oh, my world-famous dressing. Everybody's got a world-famous this or that. And I'm like, sure, okay. So I think I brought a dip. Anyway, this one pan of dressing, and I cannot make this up, their addition to the dressing, jelly beans.
I'm afraid I'd probably not eat from the jelly bean casserole.
You're a little speechless. Yeah, jelly beans in the traditional dressing. What were they thinking?
I wonder if they thought maybe the jelly beans are going to cook down. It's going to be like a sugar content to it maybe and add sweetness. I don't know.
Well, it's like sweet and salty, but no, please don't do that. Have you ever heard of that?
In all my 36, almost 37 years, I've never heard of anybody putting jelly beans. I thought you might have said like raisins or something like that, but jelly beans, that really needs to be studied. That's a different on a whole different level of, I don't know if it's creativity, but freedom in cuisine.
Okay, well, we limit it right there. I mean, that's tantamount to a felony in terms of cuisine, in my opinion. They melted a little, but when you dug down in it, you'd get this glob of like neon green. Think about that, like a lime jelly bean in your dressing. And here's something even weirder, you guys. There were people there that said, oh, yeah, I've seen that.
No, they're lying. They're lying.
Well, these people are not invited to my Thanksgiving. I'm just telling you. No joke. They said that they had seen it before. Maybe it's an Arkansas thing. Any of our Arkansas listeners out there? Email me. Let me know if you still do this so I can avoid you for the rest of my life.
That sounds like the kind of thing that I would do if I never had to be asked to bring a dish to another function or potluck ever again. They'd be like, you know what, Jeff, just bring yourself.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, that's how you get out of family gatherings. Put jelly beans in the dressing, melt it up with the grape and the lime and the blueberry and the licorice, and best of luck to you. Ugh. Are you day eaters or night eaters? A lot of people don't eat Thanksgiving at a traditional time. They'll do it middle of the afternoon. What do you do for that? What time do you go at it?
So we're usually midday eaters. So we'll get up early, get everything going and prepped and cooked. That way by, say, noon, everybody's over and we'll eat the main meal at that point. And then we let it settle by everyone taking naps and everything, and then do dessert later on in the evening.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. What about you, Jeff?
So we do it as early as we can. So usually around 11, because the thing with us is everybody the day before will usually just like probably not even eat like after 4 p.m. to save room for Thanksgiving Day. So yeah, the earlier the better, and then we just eat all day long.
So I've heard that takeout food the night before Thanksgiving is one of the biggest nights of the year because people don't want to cook anymore. They're either going to cook all day the next day or they've prepped so much that they don't want to. My family typically, if someone's working, we will try to work around their schedule, right? But we are the family that does the appetizers, not spinach dip, and we probably never will. But we're the family that will have snacks and sips for a couple of hours. Then we will roll out. But you have to be very careful not to get too full.
Yeah, we'll definitely do the snacking. So one of the main things we go with every year is a cheese ball. So I don't know if you've had a cheese ball before or not, like the cream cheese and everything like that.
Absolutely.
We'll make one of those, and like with the Ritz crackers or like a charcuterie board. Yeah. And then that's one of the things that we'll kind of snack on as you're prepping everything else.
Okay, Jeff, what about you?
So the biggest thing we do for snacking, I would probably say, is digging into the dessert first. So a piece of the pie, just a little slice of it, a little bit of, whipped cream on top of it. It doesn't hurt anybody, to have your dessert before the main course.
I like the way you think. Okay, whipped cream. Sometimes we call it whipped cream. Is it homemade whooping cream? Is it homemade, or do you go with the Cool Whip or the can?
Straight out of the Cool Whip can.
Really?
That's
okay.
right.
It's homemade whipping cream at my house or nothing. What about you?
I'm doing dollops of Cool Whip right out of the container.
Really?
There's probably going to be more Cool Whip than there is on the ratio of pie to Cool Whip, honestly, where all you're going to see is the Cool Whip. You don't even know there's pie underneath there.
Yeah, I get it. But I do love a good fresh whipped cream with just the right amount of sugar in it. Okay, Jeff, you mentioned cocktails. Do you have or can you recommend a holiday time cocktail for us? Give me an idea.
I can. Anything that has to do with spice, rum, and cinnamon. Those are usually the flavor profiles that we go for with Thanksgiving. So, I mean, that's it. Just any kind of really, spice rum, and then just like maybe a little bit of cinnamon around the edge. Yeah. Okay,
get this. I went to a wedding not long ago, and their signature drink, because it was fall and it was a beautiful outdoor wedding, was an apple cider based cocktail, but with gin. What do you think about that? It was fantastic.
So I think that sounds great. I think that sounds like a good night.
It was a very good night. I do think rum would be the one I would have assumed they would have put in it. Do you guys, Billy, at your house, do you raise a glass like have a little champagne early, a little, like instead of a mimosa, like a cranberry, something like that?
Yeah, we'll do every once in a while. It's champagne, or usually somebody who doesn't do well at cooking is in charge of bringing bottles of wine. Usually something like that.
This is a big question, and this is going to say a lot about you guys. Cranberry sauce, homemade, canned, jellied, or whole? What do you say?
So we do it homemade. My wife makes it to where she does the whole boiling of the cranberries with the sugar, maybe a little bit of orange in there. And we'll usually do that the night before and then put it like in a mason jar and put it in the fridge. So it's homemade, but it turns into almost like that jelly to it. Okay.
If I brought a can to your house, would you let me in?
Yeah. I don't even know the last time I've had a can of cranberry sauce, to be honest with you. But I'm always up for trying something I haven't had, so come on over.
Okay, so here's what a little redneck I am. With my stovetop last night, no joke, I had cranberry sauce. And I am the jellied, can-shaped. It's just so good. Jeff, what do you say?
So we grew up on that can. But I've since then stepped away from the can. I want homemade. Billy sounds amazing. I'd like to come over for Thanksgiving just to see what real homemade cranberry tastes like, but I've always had it out of the can, so you would be welcome with open arms at the Bates household.
We do a homemade. I don't do a homemade. I insist on the can-shaped good old. It's just one of my favorite things. Speaking of cranberries, I'm obsessed. This year, or this time of year rather, I want everything to have a cranberry twist going on. Can either of you give me any kind of an idea of a cocktail, a dessert? Have you ever thrown cranberries in a cobbler or a pie? Is there any kind of an idea? Help me out here, because fresh cranberries can be tricky. I think you have to prep them. You don't just throw them in and eat those, right? Any ideas?
See, I'm a fan of cheesecake. And so I feel like if you're making homemade cranberry sauce, it has like that loose to it, where it looks like like the cans of cherry pie filling type of thing.
Yeah.
I feel like that'd be perfect to go on top of a cheesecake, like a cranberry cheesecake.
Man, you're right. And you could also make like a cranberry relish. I would think for the meats would be pretty fantastic. What about you, Jeff? Cocktail or cranberry idea? What you got?
So I know that it's not the cranberry like the actual fruit, but I mean, we use the canned cranberry for the next day leftover sandwiches. So a turkey, cranberry, and dressing sandwich.
Great idea. And let me throw this out. There's a place in Little Rock that does a peppered ham. And my brother, who still lives in Arkansas, used to always bring us the peppered ham. I guess you can order those. I mean, they're just coated with pepper on the outside, and they're just delicious. But my after Thanksgiving leftover, and I'm glad you brought this up, is the peppered ham sandwich, but on raisin bread. Cinnamon raisin bread. I'm telling you, people, listen to me now. I just go get the old school Pepperidge Farm. I don't care where you get it. Go to Neighbor's Mill, get whatever. But just, I'm telling you, put that meat on a sweet piece of bread, and it is magical. I'm getting 2 thumbs up from you guys, yes?
Yeah, hey, I'm willing to try it for sure. Yeah, we do. So kind of like how Jeff had mentioned, like sandwiches the next day, we'll do like sliders. We'll use the rolls, and we'll just load up then with, piling everything on like rolls and make like kind of the leftover sandwich sliders the next day.
I did the sliders with the Hawaiian rolls with the turkey and the stuffing and the cranberry sauce, and they were pretty good. They needed something. I don't know what they needed, but they were okay. They were great for football watching all weekend, but it was like it needs something more. I don't know what that is. What about you?
Absolutely. Anything that comes on a sandwich, I'll check it out.
Well, and when you get the sweet and savory, that's what does me in, because I'll sit and go back and forth. It's like snacking. A little bit of this, a little bit of that, sweet, salty. I'll go all day long. And I'm mostly a salty snacker. But when you throw in the sweet bread with the meat, there's just something magical. I'll tell you one thing that I like this time of year. Krispy Kreme's pumpkin spice donut. That thing, what? You're shaking your head. Have you not had it?
I haven't. I honestly didn't have my first anything pumpkin spice outside of a pie until literally maybe last year, like a pumpkin spice latte. I don't know. It's just never screamed at me for some reason.
Yeah, I'm the same. I don't really do anything with pumpkin, But, I mean, we do have other things that we do like during this time, like Andes. I mean, now, that's one thing I will take back. So if it comes in Andy's frozen custard, the pumpkin pie piece that they put in there, I could do that. That's good.
Yeah. Andy's rules all the time. I just think, Andy's. If you're listening, Andy, Carol, listen to me. Do something with cranberries. This is my personal appeal. You guys would go with me to have the cranberry Andes. In fact, it's a date. Okay, Andes, I'm getting you, come up with something having to do with cranberries. Real quick, Wild Turkey Wednesday. Not everybody's familiar, but I think it got its name because all the kids are home from college. Everybody's coming home. They're all catching up. Where are you going? Let's go out and have a drink, do whatever. And the wild turkey people have to be loving this for decades and decades. What do you do the night before? Besides, Jeff, you said a lot of people try not to eat a lot the night before. What do you do?
So before this interview today, I had never heard of Wild Turkey Wednesday. I don't know why, but this year, now that, see, if I know better, I'll do better. This year, now that I know about it, I'm probably going to, I don't know, I might go watch wild turkeys on live stream, just before the day that we start eating them. So yeah, maybe something like that.
Okay, well, those wild turkeys, too. I get it. Metro Grill has a huge Wild Turkey Wednesday party, just FYI. Billy, what about you? What's the night before? My dad used to go deer hunting, and a lot of times he would have a venison tenderloin in the kitchen, and it was all smoked, cooked, grilled, however he did it, and you just walk by all night. And then the next morning, before we would eat, go by, put a piece on a cracker with a piece of cheese. He would make a sausage, like a kind of a, like a cured sausage out of it as well. What about you? Any night before or Wild Turkey Wednesday traditions?
So typically ours is, we prep for everything for the day before. So usually we'll have everybody over and we'll do like board games or video games or movies. And, we've had some family members who will like spend the night and want to cook their dishes at our house, the next day. And so it's kind of like this, like a gathering and just hanging out and snacking and prepping everything.
As it should be. All right, I want to show you guys something real quick before we sign off here. I'm going to reach over here and open that up, Jeff. I want to read to you what my youngest daughter, Audrey, wrote many, many, many years ago. It's a little sort of essay for Thanksgiving, and I'm going to read this to you because this is sort of one of those things that we have to post every year at Thanksgiving. It says, "Hello, my name is A.J. Fountain. I am a Pilgrim girl. My family sailed across the ocean. We got seasick. We puked. A lot. It took 66 days. A little hard to read. We got off the ship. I saw a guy named Squanto. He taught us how to plant corn in the spring. We came. People died. We had a feast." Actually, it says we had a fest. No truer words were spoken. People came, we had a fest. And that's what we're going to do this year. Okay, thanks you guys so much. Billy Dove, the 417 Foodist. Jeffrey Bates of 417 Good Eatin'. Guys, thank you so much and happy Thanksgiving.
So thank you so much for having me. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for having me and hope you have a great Thanksgiving.
So what are your holiday traditions? Have any recipes you want to share? What are the things you love? What are the things you can live without? Tell us everything. Email me at joy@aroundtheozarks.com. Be sure to go to aroundtheozarks.com to sign up for our daily newsletter where you can get every episode of Savor the Ozarks, plus all our other podcasts, events, and contests straight to your inbox. And what are your favorite dishes in the 417? You have any restaurants you'd like me to visit? Email me at joy@aroundtheozarks.com.